First Contact's Price. The crystalline spires of the K-theory diplomatic vessel pierced the velvet darkness of space like frozen lightning. Captain Rhiannon Blake stood at the observation deck of the Earth vessel Horizon's Dawn, watching their approach with a mixture of awe and apprehension. After 15 years of long-range communications, humanity was finally meeting the mysterious K-theory face-to-face. Final approach vectors confirmed. Lieutenant Patel's steady voice came through the ship's comm. K-theory vessel maintaining designated distance. Rhiannon smoothed down her formal uniform. The silver and blue fabric, a stark contrast to the black void beyond the reinforced windows. As Earth's chosen representative, she carried the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. The K-theory were centuries ahead of humans technologically, but they were famously selective about their allies. Captain, Commander James Rodriguez appeared at her side, datapad in hand. The latest cultural briefing just came through. The K-theory delegation is led by war sage Versath himself. Rhiannon's heart skipped a beat. Versath was legendary even by K-theory standards, a warrior philosopher whose tactical genius had unified their scattered stellar empire. Any last-minute protocols we should know about? Just the usual. No direct eye contact unless invited. Maintain 2 arms length distance, and under no circumstances touch their crystal arrays. Rodriguez gestured to the intricate formations of living crystal that the K-theory wore as both armor and status symbols. The docking procedure was seamless, a testament to both species' technological prowess. Rhiannon led her small delegation to the neutral meeting chamber, her steps measured and confident despite her racing pulse. The room itself was a marvel of engineering, its walls shifting between opacity and transparency to create the illusion of standing in open space. The K-theory entered like living shadows, their crystalline armor catching and refracting the starlight. Versath towered over his companions, nearly 8 feet tall with armor that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. His humanoid form was wrapped in layers of living crystal that moved with him like liquid glass, and his eyes, all 4 of them, gleamed with an intelligence that made Rhiannon's breath catch. Captain Blake, his voice resonated through the chamber, translated perfectly by their advanced systems. Your species has traveled far to stand among the stars. Rhiannon bowed precisely to the depth specified in their protocols. War Sage Versath, we are honored by your presence. Earth hopes to prove worthy of dialogue with the K-theory Empire. Hope. Versath's crystal arrays shifted, creating patterns that the human translators couldn't quite parse. Hope is the seed of either greatness or folly. Which shall your species prove to be? The negotiations proceeded with the careful precision of a zero-gravity dance. Each word was measured, each gesture calculated. Hours passed as they discussed trade routes, technological exchanges, and territorial boundaries. Rhiannon found herself increasingly fascinated by Versath's subtle expressions, the way his crystal arrays shifted with his thoughts. Then everything changed in an instant. The ship's warning klaxon blared. Unidentified vessels dropping out of FTL. Lieutenant Patel's voice carried real fear now. Energy signatures matched the Ravager pirates. The Ravagers, brutal raiders who attacked ships of any species. Before anyone could react, the first impacts rocked both vessels. Rhiannon was thrown off balance, her hand instinctively reaching out to steady herself. Her fingers brushed Versath's crystal array. The world exploded into light and sensation. Images, feelings, and memories that were her own flooded her mind. She saw battles fought across star systems, felt the weight of centuries of tradition, experienced the lonely burden of leadership. Through it all, she sensed Versath's presence, shocked, intrigued, and something else she couldn't quite name. When reality reasserted itself, the K-theory delegation had formed a protective circle around them. Weapons manifested from their crystal armor. Versath's arrays were pulsing with colors she'd never seen before. The soul touch, he said, his voice carrying new depths. In all our history, no non-K-theory has ever. He focused all 4 eyes on her. Do you understand what you've done, Captain Blake? Ryan's mind raced through the cultural briefings. The crystal arrays weren't just armor or status symbols. They were a physical manifestation of a Kithiri's inner self. To touch one uninvited was either a death sentence or, "I've initiated a bond claim," she whispered, horror and fascination warring in her voice. Indeed, Verisath's arrays shifted to a deep, resonant purple. "And now we must deal with both these pirates and the consequences of your touch." His weapon systems hummed to life. "Shall we defend our ships first, or would you prefer to discuss our unexpected engagement?" Another blast rocked the ship, and Ryan found herself smiling despite the gravity of the situation. Pirates first, cultural crisis second. A practical answer. Was that amusement in his multi-tone voice? "Show me how humans fight, Captain Blake. Show me if that touch was truly fate or merely cosmic chance." As they moved to combat positions, Rhiannon couldn't help but think that either way, the future of human-Kithiri relations had just become far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The next few hours would determine not just her fate, but potentially that of both their species. Above them, the stars watched impassively as two civilizations found themselves bound together by a single accidental touch. Trials of two worlds. The Ravager attack had been repelled, but the real battle was just beginning. Rhiannon stood before the Kithiri High Council chamber aboard their massive flagship, its walls a living lattice of crystal that hummed with barely contained energy. Verisath stood to her side, his presence both reassuring and unsettling after their unexpected bond. A human dares to claim the soul touch. Counselor Ixra's crystal arrays flashed dangerous shades of crimson. "This is unprecedented. The penalty for unauthorized contact with a War Sage's arrays is typically death." Yet the arrays accepted her. Verisath's voice carried the weight of his centuries of experience. The resonance was pure, undeniable. Even now, the connection persists. He was right. Rhiannon could feel it. A subtle awareness of his presence, like a compass always pointing true north. The battle against the Ravagers had proven that. They had moved in perfect synchronization, her tactical insights blending seamlessly with his raw power. Then she must face the trials, another counselor declared, their crystals chiming in harmony, as all potential bondmates must. Rhiannon stepped forward. "I accept." The words left her mouth before she could second-guess them. "Whatever trials you demand, I will face them." A ripple of crystalline tones, their equivalent of murmuring, swept through the chamber. Verisath's arrays pulsed with what she was beginning to recognize as concern. "The trials were designed for Kithiri physiology," he said quietly. "No human has ever attempted them." "Then I'll be the first." Rhiannon met his four-eyed gaze steadily. "Unless you prefer to execute me and risk diplomatic catastrophe." The ghost of amusement touched their bond. "Ever the tactician, Captain Blake." He turned to address the council. "I support her right to attempt the trials." The first trial began immediately. Rhiannon found herself in a chamber of pure crystal, each facet reflecting a different memory from Kithiri history. The test was simple in theory. Understand their people's past, feel their triumphs and failures, prove worthy of joining their legacy. In practice, it was like having centuries of alien experiences slammed into her consciousness. She saw the Kithiri rise from their crystalline world, felt their struggles to unite their scattered clans, experienced their first steps into the cosmos. Through it all, she forced herself to remain standing, even as her human mind struggled to process the alien perspectives. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time meant little in that crystalline archive of memory. When she emerged, even Counselor Ixra's arrays had shifted to a more contemplative hue. She endured, they observed, and more, she understood. The physical trials that followed tested every limit of human endurance. Rhiannon fought Kithiri warriors in zero gravity, navigated crystalline mazes that shifted and changed with each step, solved puzzles that required thinking in 5 dimensions. Through it all, her connection to Verisath grew stronger. She began to understand the subtle meanings in his crystal patterns, the unspoken language of light and resonance that was as natural to his people as breathing. But it was the final trial that truly tested them both. The trial of unity, the High Council announced. You must face it together, yet apart. Success or failure will affect both participants equally. They were separated, placed in isolated chambers on opposite ends of the flagship. Through their bond, Rhiannon could feel Versath's presence, but nothing more. Then the test began. Crystal walls became viewing screens, showing each of them the same scenario, a diplomatic crisis spiraling into potential war. Each had different pieces of crucial information. Each had to make decisions that would affect countless lives. The twist? Every choice one made directly impacted the options available to the other. For hours they danced this dangerous diplomatic duet, neither able to directly communicate, both having to trust in their growing bond and understanding of each other. One misstep could simulate the destruction of entire worlds. Rhiannon drew on everything she knew of Kithiri culture, everything she'd learned about Versath himself. He, in turn, demonstrated an increasingly nuanced understanding of human perspectives and priorities. When the simulation ended, the council chamber was silent save for the harmonic hum of countless crystal arrays. In all our history, the chief counselor finally spoke. No pair has achieved such perfect synchronization in the trial of unity. Perhaps their arrays shifted through complex patterns of light. Perhaps this unprecedented bond is not an aberration, but an evolution. Versath moved to stand beside Rhiannon, his massive form casting prismatic shadows across the chamber floor. The universe rarely makes mistakes, he said, his arrays pulsing with colors that made her heart race. Sometimes it simply moves in ways we fail to anticipate. Pretty words, Counselor Ixra interjected, but they do not address the practical concerns. A human war sage bondmate. The political implications alone. A sudden alarm cut through the chamber. Lieutenant Patel's voice came through on all channels, tight with controlled panic. Captain Blake, multiple Ravager fleets just dropped out of FTL, far more than last time. They're targeting both human and Kithiri space simultaneously. Versath's arrays flared with battle readiness. It seems the universe has provided an opportunity to demonstrate the practical value of our bond. He extended a crystalline hand to Rhiannon. Shall we show them how humans and Kithiri fight together? Rhiannon took his hand, feeling the resonance between them surge. Let's make history. Warriors united. The bridge of the horizon's dawn thrummed with tension as Rhiannon and Versath coordinated their joint fleet's response to the Ravager assault. Through their bond, she could feel his strategic mind working alongside hers, centuries of Kithiri battle wisdom merging with human adaptability. Multiple attack vectors. Lieutenant Patel reported, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. They're using some kind of new cloaking technology. Our sensors can barely track them. The crystal arrays can. Versath's voice resonated through the command center. At his gesture, the Kithiri vessel's sensor data streamed to the human ships. They cannot hide from resonance patterns. Rhiannon studied the enhanced tactical display, noting how the Ravager ships moved in patterns she'd never seen before. This isn't their usual hit-and-run strategy. They're too organized, too coordinated. She felt Versath's agreement through their bond. Someone's directing them. Counselor Ixra, Commander Rodriguez burst onto the bridge, his face grim. They found evidence in their communication logs. They'd been feeding information to the Ravagers for months. The betrayal hit both Rhiannon and Versath through their connection, a spike of anger and disappointment that resonated between them. They opposed any alliance with humanity. Versath's arrays pulsed with controlled fury. But to ally with Ravagers. Later, Rhiannon touched his arm, feeling the crystal arrays hum beneath her fingers. Right now we have ships to protect. She turned to her crew. New battle strategy. Lieutenant Patel, link all human vessels to the Kithiri sensor network. Commander Rodriguez, I want our ships paired one-to-one with Kithiri vessels. Versath's rays flickered with interest as he grasped her plan. Yes, human maneuverability combined with our targeting precision. But the neural load of such coordination. We'll handle it, Rhiannon assured him, feeling their bond strengthen with shared purpose. Humanity didn't make it to the stars by backing down from challenges. The battle that followed would be studied by both species for generations to come. Human ships danced through space like water droplets in zero gravity, their Kith-theory partners providing perfect targeting data through the crystal array network. Where the Ravagers expected to find weakness in the joint fleet, they found only seamless cooperation. But it was the Horizon's Dawn and Versath's flagship, the Crystal Ascendant, that truly demonstrated the potential of human Kith-theory unity. Through their bond, Rhiannon and Versath moved their ships as one entity, covering each other's blind spots, amplifying each other's strengths. Enemy flagship detected, Patil announced. Matching energy signatures to. It's a Kith-theory vessel, Counselor Ixra's personal ship. The massive warship decloaked before them, its crystal arrays corrupted and dark. Ixra's voice crackled through all channels. You soil our species with this human contamination, Versath. Better to burn both our civilizations than watch them merge into something impure. Contamination. Rhiannon felt Versath's anger match her own. Look around you, Counselor. Look how we fight together, how we strengthen each other. This isn't contamination, it's evolution. Naive child. Ixra spat. You know nothing of the galaxy's true dangers. The Ravagers are just the beginning. There are threats in the dark between stars that would devour both our species. We must remain pure, remain strong. We are stronger together. Versath's voice carried the weight of centuries. Through their bond, Rhiannon felt his certainty, his growing recognition that their accidental connection was anything but random. Captain Blake, shall we demonstrate? What followed was a dance of light and shadow, human intuition, and K-theory power moving in perfect harmony. The Horizon's Dawn and Crystal Ascendant wove between Ravager ships, their combined tactics overwhelming Ixra's defenses. But victory came at a cost. As Ixra's ship began to break apart, it launched a final desperate attack. A crystalline torpedo aimed not at their ships, but at the nearby civilian station housing both human and Kith-theory refugees. There wasn't time to shoot it down. There wasn't time to evacuate. There was only time for one choice. Through their bond, Rhiannon and Versath reached the same decision simultaneously. Both ships moved as one, interposing themselves between the torpedo and the station. The impact would likely destroy them both, but thousands of innocent lives would be saved. In that moment, as crystal energy cascaded toward them, Rhiannon felt Versath's presence in her mind stronger than ever. No regrets, she thought. Worth it, he answered. The torpedo struck, and the unexpected happened. The crystal arrays of both ships resonated with their pilots' shared sacrifice, creating a harmony that neither species had achieved alone. Energy that should have destroyed them was instead absorbed, redirected, transformed. When the light faded, both ships remained intact, their hulls now webbed with a lattice of crystalline energy that pulsed in sync with their commanders' heartbeats. The station and its refugees were safe. As the remaining Ravager ships fled or surrendered, Rhiannon and Versath stood together on the Horizon's Dawn's observation deck, watching their transformed vessels gleam in the starlight. The Council will have questions, Versath observed, his arrays shifting through colors of wonder and possibility. Let them question, Rhiannon smiled, feeling the strength of their bond, the potential it represented. We have answers they never imagined. Hearts of steel and stardust. The aftermath of the battle brought changes no one could have predicted. The hybrid crystalline technology that had spontaneously formed during their moment of sacrifice had begun to spread, creating a new form of architecture that was neither purely human nor Kith-theory, but something altogether different. Rhiannon stood in the newly constructed Unity chamber aboard the transformed Horizon's Dawn, watching engineers from both species study the living crystal formations with equal parts wonder and confusion. The chamber itself seemed to pulse in harmony with her thoughts, its patterns shifting subtly as Verisath entered. "The High Council is in an uproar," he announced, his arrays flickering with mixed amusement and concern. "Half of them want to study this new technology immediately. The other half want to quarantine both our ships for fear of contamination." "And what do you want?" Rhiannon turned to face him, still marveling at how natural it felt to sense his emotions through their strengthening bond. "I want." Verisath's arrays shifted to colors she'd never seen before, sending ripples of unexpected warmth through their connection. "I find my wants have changed significantly since a certain human captain first touched my arrays." The admission hung between them, heavy with possibility. Before either could speak further, Lieutenant Patel's voice came through the comm. "Captain, War Sage, we're receiving distress calls from multiple sectors. The hybrid technology, it's not just our ships anymore. Similar crystalline formations are appearing on stations and colonies where humans and Ketheri work together." "Show us," Rhiannon commanded. The chamber's walls transformed into a display of real-time feeds from across both species' territories. Everywhere humans and Ketheri collaborated closely, the same phenomenon was occurring. Living crystal structures growing, adapting, creating spaces that seemed designed for both species to thrive together. "It's beautiful," Rhiannon breathed, watching the formations grow like frozen starlight. "And dangerous," Verisath added, though his arrays pulsed with fascination. "Change always is, especially change that cannot be controlled or contained." As if to prove his point, an urgent message came through from Earth's Central Command. "Captain Blake, we're detecting crystalline growth in all major joint facilities. The public is divided. Some see it as a miracle, others as an invasion. We need you and War Sage Verisath to address both our species, explain what's happening." Rhiannon felt Verisath's thoughtful presence in her mind. "They fear what they don't understand," she said softly, "just as your council does. Then let us help them understand." Verisath's massive form moved closer, his crystal arrays harmonizing with the chamber's patterns, not through words alone, but through demonstration. Over the next few weeks, they traveled together to every major human and Ketheri settlement affected by the changes. At each stop, they showed how their bond had not weakened either of them, but made them stronger together. The hybrid technology responded to their unified presence, creating spaces of stunning beauty and unprecedented functionality. But it was during a visit to a small human Ketheri mining colony that they made their most important discovery. The colony had been struggling with environmental incompatibilities. The atmosphere pressure needed for Ketheri comfort made humans sluggish, while human optimal conditions left Ketheri feeling constantly dehydrated. As Rhiannon and Verisath toured the facility, their bond humming with shared concern for the colonists, the hybrid crystals began to grow and shift. Within hours, they had created a network of interconnected microenvironments, allowing both species to move freely throughout the colony while remaining in their optimal conditions. "It's not just random growth," Rhiannon realized, watching humans and Ketheri interact naturally for the first time. The technology responds to need, to genuine desire for cooperation. "Like calls to like," Verisath agreed, his arrays shimmering with pride and something deeper. "Just as we did." That evening, they stood together in the colony's observation dome, watching the local stars set behind crystalline mountains. The hybrid formations had turned the dome into a kaleidoscope of colors, each shade holding meaning in both human and Ketheri perception. "I never thought," Verisath spoke softly, his arrays pulsing in time with Rhiannon's heartbeat, "that I would find my greatest strength in what others saw as weakness, opening ourselves to change, to connection. Takes more courage than fighting any battle," Rhiannon finished, feeling the truth of it in their bond. She turned to face him fully. "Verisath, I—" The dome suddenly blazed with light, the hybrid crystals resonating with unprecedented intensity. Through their bond, they both felt it. A vast network of consciousness awakening, connecting every hybrid formation across their territories. The technology wasn't just responding to them anymore. It was evolving, becoming something new. As the light show continued, a message from the High Council flashed urgently. They had detected the power surge and were demanding immediate answers. Simultaneously, Earth's leaders were calling for explanations. Rhiannon looked at Verisath, seeing in his 4 eyes the same determination she felt, ready to change the universe. His arrays shifted to that now familiar violet that made her heart race. With you, always. Legacy of the stars. The hybrid crystal network that now spanned human and K-theory space had become more than technology. It was a bridge between species, a physical manifestation of their potential together. As Rhiannon and Verisath stood before the combined councils of both civilizations, they could feel the network humming with possibility. This is unprecedented, the Earth Federation's president declared, her hologram flickering with concern. The crystals are rewriting the very foundations of our colonies, our stations, our ships. They are not rewriting, Verisath corrected, his arrays pulsing with calm certainty. They are revealing what was always possible. Through their bond, Rhiannon felt his absolute conviction in these words. The Kitheri High Council's chief elder leaned forward, their ancient arrays shifting through patterns of deep contemplation. Our scientists report that the hybrid formations are creating something akin to a collective consciousness, not controlling, but connecting, sharing understanding across species barriers. Rhiannon nodded, feeling the truth of it through her connection with Verisath. The technology responds to genuine cooperation, to true desire for understanding. Where humans and K-theory work together in harmony, it provides solutions neither species could achieve alone. Evidence was impossible to ignore. The mining colony's environmental breakthrough had been just the beginning. Medical facilities reported unprecedented advances in treating both species. Research stations found their efficiency doubled as the crystal network facilitated perfect translation of complex concepts. Even military vessels were transforming, combining human intuition with K-theory precision in ways that made them unbeatable against raiders. "And what of you two?" another counselor demanded. "This all began with your unauthorized bond. How can we be certain this isn't some form of invasion, some subtle manipulation?" The crystal walls of the chamber pulsed, responding to the spike of emotion that passed between Rhiannon and Verisath. Through their bond flowed memories of every moment since that first touch. The trials faced, the battles won, the understanding gained. Without speaking, they agreed to show rather than tell. Together, they reached out to the hybrid network. The chamber's crystals blazed with light as their shared consciousness touched the greater web of connection. Every being present, human and K-theory alike, felt a moment of what they shared. Not domination or submission, but perfect partnership. Strength doubled through unity rather than halved through conquest. When the light faded, there wasn't a dry eye or unaffected array in the chamber. "We cannot stop this evolution," Rhiannon said softly. "Nor should we. Look around you. Every problem we faced as separate species is finding solutions through cooperation. The stars are filled with wonders and terrors beyond either of our civilization's ability to face alone," Verisath added. But together, his arrays shifted to patterns that made the hybrid crystals sing with resonance. The next few hours were filled with intense discussion, debate, and finally, acceptance. Both councils voted to formally recognize and support the emergence of the hybrid technology, with Rhiannon and Verisath appointed as joint ambassadors to oversee its development. Later, standing in their favorite observation dome aboard the transformed Horizon's Dawn, they watched their ships prepare for their next mission, exploring the furthest reaches of known space, seeking other civilizations that might join their growing alliance. "Did you ever imagine?" Rhiannon asked, feeling Verisath's presence warm and steady in her mind. That one accidental touch would lead to all this. His arrays shifted to that deep violet that now meant home and heart to her. "The universe rarely deals in accidents, my love. Some souls are meant to find each other across any distance, any barrier." The hybrid crystals around them pulsed in agreement, their light casting prismatic patterns across the deck. Through their bond, they felt the vast network of consciousness that connected their peoples, not erasing their differences, but celebrating them, weaving them into something greater than the sum of its parts. "Where shall we go first?" Versath asked, his 4 eyes twinkling with the same adventurous spirit that had first drawn them together. Rhiannon smiled, taking his crystalline hand in hers. The contact sent ripples of light through both their arrays and the surrounding structure. "Everywhere," she said simply. Together. Above them, the infinite expanse of space beckoned, no longer a barrier between species, but a road leading to endless possibilities. Their accidental touch had changed not just their lives, but the very fabric of their civilizations, proving that the greatest strength lies not in isolation, but in the courage to reach across the void and make connection. As their ships prepared to jump to FTL, the hybrid crystals pulsed one final time, singing a harmony that could be felt across human and K-theory space, a song of unity, of evolution, of love that knew no boundaries. The future they had begun would ripple across the galaxy, touching all who were brave enough to reach across the divisions of species and space, to grasp hands with the unknown. In the end, it wasn't just their story. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter in the history of all sentient beings, proof that sometimes the greatest journeys begin with a single, unexpected touch.